Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, CEO of iShook. I'm here with a good fellow friend of mine for many, many years. Don't hold it against me. His name is Jackman Prescott. He is an engineer, a fellow entrepreneur, and a person who basically runs all the buildings in New York City. So we're here to present Jackman Prescott. Jackman, how you doing?
Benny, it's a pleasure. It's been a while, but thank you for bringing us on your program. We appreciate it, and let's get this rolling.
Any plugs you want to give? What's your company name?
Company name, 5D Architecture and Engineering. We've been around since 2009.
Wow.
All right, so built it off the kitchen table engineering and architecture, and here right now, sitting in front of you, doing good things, JFK. Taking it to another level, drones,
whoa. You're blowing us up here. Let's figure out what's going on.
Let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
Let me back up.
So just first of all, when you're in the kitchen drawing, are you cooking also for your wife? What's going on there?
Literally on the kitchen table.
On the kitchen table.
On the kitchen table. That's how it started.
All right, no problem. I got you. So listen, everybody, I want to understand. Let me give you this whole episode is about me and my entrepreneurship, struggles and basically where I've been going. So I like to learn more. I like to collaborate with a lot of peoples in the vicinity. I love real estate. I love building. Jackman is a good friend, but he is so, in my perspective, he knows so many things. And the reason why I'm bringing Jackman on board with our entrepreneurship structure is that a lot of people think they can all, with a click, start all of a sudden real estate. But they don't understand the components that entails in building and structure. So the first question I'm going to hit Jackman, guys, and it's for the public. Jackman, how important in the percentage of real estate is an engineer and an architect?
Very important. From the initial, coming on board, understanding what that real estate could be valued at in terms of its potential, its location, actually, what the zoning is, for that real estate component. And also even looking at the inspections, getting in there, seeing, what the guts of the building, is made up of, what the use of the building, you may be buying a building that you may want to change the use. So that is the critical part of why you want to reach out to your engineers, your architects, to kind of give you a lay of the land. Well, what are they seeing from above? What are they researching? What do you want to do? Because you don't want to buy a building at the end of the day, that use is not allowed.
So basically, as an as-is building, you're basically analyzing the guts and the skeleton of the building.
That is correct.
So that's what. So in reality, is it wrong to say an engineer is by far more important than the architect? Because the engineer really understands things per se that the architect might not understand. As an architect, from what I understand, is a design specialist. He's not really the guts and bones of the actual building.
I would look at that differently.
Okay.
For the initial look and the purchase of the building, and to understand, what the building could really, be about in terms of how it's going to function. That's where the engineer comes in. That's your critical component. That inspection component. Is the building going to stand up? Is the building too old? Does the building need repairs? So that is the level of where the engineering comes in. Am I buying a lemon?
Right.
So that is the difference there. That's what separates, the two groups. The architecture may touch on the zoning and the use, but the engineer will basically come in there and say, hey, look, this is a good buy or this is a bad buy.
So let me ask you, obviously with this, what you just said, in reality, can an engineer technically do what the architect does?
So,
can an engineer design and draw and submit inclusive of engineering work? Or is it, the engineer is not an architect and the architect is not an engineer? Because I know for sure an architect cannot do engineering work. He cannot be a person signing off on engineering work, from what my experience is.
Right, so I'll clear it out. So typically, how the system runs, you have the engineering and architecture, and where the overlap happens is when you combine the two disciplines to get it. That's where it's most effective, in terms of the real estate and the real estate developer, because it allows him to, through his lens, to see, what we are seeing. So in terms of coming back to that overlap, engineer or an architect, we try in the industry to keep a fine line, a separation, so that way things don't cross,
But in reality of New York City, do they allow an engineer to do the architectural work, and do they allow an architect to do engineering work?
So New York City looks at it differently in the filing process.
Okay.
They look at it as the applicant of record. So you would find, applicants of record where the work is being filed that may include architectural work that would most likely at that point have an architect who had reviewed it. But New York City is more concerned with who's the applicant, who's filing this. If there's something wrong, who do we talk to? We want to talk to that applicant. So that's where it comes in, where you do want someone with the background or with the exposure that has worked in both areas in order to file, because they most likely would be the ones that would be able to answer some of those questions or those zoning areas or those structural or the mechanical areas.
Jackman, I love your Megillah. Bottom line, yes or no? Engineers can do architectural works or not?
No.
It's like you're in Congress here, brother. It's like we're not in Congress here. Can an engineer file architectural work or not in New York City?
Well, an engineer could file plans.
Oh, he can file plans.
Yes.
So technically, he can do the architectural work in New York City.
So I don't want to say technically could do the architectural work, because if somebody's watching this podcast,
right,
they're going to say, "What do you mean that an engineer could do architectural work?"
Can he submit designs like an architect?
So he could make designs for what he has the experience.
Will be accepted by New York City.
New York City will accept if an engineer files plans.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I got what you're trying to say. You're trying to be nice with the architects, but let's be bottom line. Let's not,
No, I'm not trying to be nice. I don't want you to see I'm trying to be nice. I'm
No,
trying to tell you.
You're trying to be maybe politically correct.
No.
Let's say the new term, professionally correct.
Well, remember we have tenants and we have laws we gotta.
No, I understand where the place.
by.
I understand where the place of
Right.
an architect is and an engineer is.
Right.
But
So
the
we
question is, I just want to know the abilities and the balance between an architect and an engineer. I understand an engineer, you want him to specifically focus on the structure of the building in order not to
Right.
overlap his position, overextend himself. And then, maybe God forbid a building might collapse because of that, because you are doing a lot of the inspection work. So I understand they want to basically separate the two. But ultimately, I would think I'd rather go to an engineer who will do everything for me to A to Z as opposed to going to two different peoples. But I'm also on the belief that many developers would want to go to an architect and engineer separately in order not to conflate the two or, kind of combine the two and make a huge mishap happening here.
Right. Well, the way I want you to look at it is that as a real estate developer, you want to go to, a firm that provides the services
Right.
of both the engineer and the architect, because you'll get most of the bang for your buck.
Right.
Because at least you'll be dealing with the engineer and the architect. But who files the plans? Engineer could file the plans, or the architect could file the plans.
Right. But an architect cannot file engineering plans. That for sure, I know. You cannot do that. Am I right or wrong?
You're correct. They can, if it's just engineering plans, yes, the architect can file.
All right. Now, I know that the city has created a new 2022 building code. Can you tell us something about that? How is it affecting the new buildings? How is it applied in your experience as of now? How serious is it compared to the 2014 code, I believe, or 15 code? That was the last code of the update.
Mm-hmm.
So in 7 years' time, why would that have to change? What's behind the bottom line of New York City? And I know that New York City does go through code changes as the international building code changes.
Right.
So when there's an international building code change, the year or two after, I believe the New York City changes their building code. So if I'm not mistaken, the IBCC, right?
Yeah, IBC, International Building Code.
Right, has changed in 2020, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken. So what's the shtick? What's going on here?
So I think the major drive behind most of these changes is that's affecting is the carbon footprint. As you know, as you live in a place like New York City, there's a lot of buildings, and it increases the carbon footprint. So it's going to be a big contribution towards global warming. So the city is looking at this a little differently, saying let's catch up. We want to look at the environment. That's critical. We want to look at sustainability or social issues, and we want to look at governance. So basically, they added a green component. So,
Right.
So
they added a political component.
I would say green. Right, a green component.
That's fine. Green is fine. I mean, I was
Right.
actually in Shanghai before the pandemic, and in Shanghai they had a lot of green roofs. It was very nice, and you see there is a strive for it. I mean, I know numbers wise, emission wise, China is not close at all to what the U.S. is doing. I think we're doing the most, right, for the green initiative. Listen, whether there's going to be global warming in the sense of mass flooding, I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I can't foretell the future, but I definitely believe we have an obligation to protect the planet that we live in. And why not start now if it's feasible? Keyword, if it's feasible. Because I'm a big proponent believer that you cannot build something by destroying something. Like, you cannot build something if it's going to cause more hunger and more, loss of lives. Right? That's the way I look at things. So you can be rich in one thing, we say in our culture, and then become poor on the other side. So you can create a balance. Oh, you're successful here, but you just create more poverty in the other world, in the other countries of the world.
Right, and I understand what you're saying. The way how we look at it is like, what is our social governance? We are stewards for the planet. So as engineers, as architects, as professionals, if we're going to be leading the real estate group, how are we, saying how are we impacting, what we're putting out there for the future, and I agree with you. However, it's very critical that our designs, the future, that we take that into consideration.
I mean, the stability of the buildings are very important.
Stability and how the buildings are going to perform eventually. What is the kind of carbon emission footprint
of that building?
Building.
Give me an example. What has changed in the building code that promotes a green initiative?
So I think what has changed is when you're looking at a new building, an alteration over a certain percentage, they're saying, hey, look, you got to consider green. So as you're moving vertically, up, or you're moving horizontally to the front or the back, you are increasing, you're taking up that volume of that space of carbon footprint. So we want to make sure that you're neutralizing that.
Wow.
With something green.
So that's in high
It's
consideration.
Big.
Now, but what about the windows? Are they going to make small windows now? I mean, I know there was a little debate on the line. Oh, let's make the windows smaller, create more concentration of heat. But I don't know, the windows and the technology of windows today can really concentrate heat today, even
right, and to the building materials. So it's what type of building materials you're using.
Correct.
So remember, if you're not changing below and you're changing on top, so they're really taking a serious look at, the energy. So there's a new division, an energy code division, that you have to submit plans to.
So there's now an energy division, but I know that they started that in 2008, no?
Right, but now
it's even more expensive?
Right, different filings. So if you're doing an all-to-one filing, if you're doing a filing that is going to increase over a certain percentage, now you have to really look at that energy code.
Right, and I will pick a few bones on the developers. For the amateur developers in New York City, wake up. You need an engineer like this. You need professionals that understand the new building code, which I think is very crucial. People have to get that message. Pay the service peoples what they deserve, because they will get you over the hurdle of the civics and the rules and the conditions and the intent of these rules and why they were established. That's the way I look at it.
Right, and that's another part of the industry too. It's the service part.
Right.
You know, where we they may say, hey, look, this stuff is simple, but it's not.
Right.
It involves a lot of code determination, a lot of code evaluation or
But does the
interpretation
city
of the code.
want? Right. I'm sorry for cutting you off. But does the city want you to interpret, or they want you to submit interpretation requests?
So they're asking us to submit.
Right.
But
Right.
along the way, going back and forth with their objections, it becomes more of an interpretation. It becomes more of, from my experience, is what are you submitting as materials? They want to know the specification, how this material actually behaves. What is the
So
carbon
I
emission?
don't. Right. So I don't think you're saying really the right word. I don't think it's necessarily interpretation. Yes, it's a definition is interpretation, but in reality, they're basically presenting you objections to make sure you don't fall into the circle that confines of that provision. They want you out of the provision request. So,
Right.
for example, if they will want an exit or they want a certain type of exit, certain type of fee, they want to see, okay, how are you complying with that specific code? Am I right
Right,
or
or
wrong?
where it comes down even to the lighting.
Okay, ventilation lighting, right?
Ventilation lighting. Typically you would say, okay, let me use this, but now they're asking you for specifications, or like, for instance, a door, garage door, a regular door. What type of UL rating that door has? This is our minimum standard. Is it fire rated? If it catches a fire, that's a door you have to go through. How is that door going to enclose that fire? So if the fireman is coming in, he has enough time for when he leaves, he gets the call, from the fire station to when he arrives at your place. Are those building materials that we say are energy code compliant? How are they standing up? So that means when that fireman comes there, one, he's able to salvage your building doesn't go up in flames, but at the same time, it protects him entering that building from when the fire started, when he got that alarm,
Oh wow!
so it doesn't endanger his life.
So there's also a massive safety component
Massive.
in regards to the occupants and the people who will occupy in order to save someone in the building.
Correct.
So there is the major fire code component, which now I believe what you're saying is the building code component is there to accommodate more the firefighters when they're coming in a state of a fire or a natural disaster or an emergency situation.
So it's not even saving our lives, but it's protecting our first responders.
Wow, that's huge.
Right.
Now I know you're into JFK. You have some sort of contract with them. What are you allowed to talk about with that? What's really going on there? Like, what are they doing? What's going on?
Well, JFK is going through a multi-gazillion billion year redevelopment at that terminal, at all the terminals. It's a new JFK. So the last major redevelopment they had was in the 70s. So now they're revamping. They're trying to bring, it's like a synergy. They're trying, again, to reduce that carbon footprint by saying, hey, look, we could do this better. We could make this more AI, more efficient. So we're having new terminals being built.
Not bad.
We're having terminals being expanded on, and we're having terminals being demolished.
So, but is JFK creating like a more generic kind of structure that can be add on as technology grows without having to do a revamp again? Are they focusing on that? I mean, like.
So the technology is so advanced, so they're focusing and implementing future technology now and being able to expand or add on.
So to add the mods on the technology.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. That's cool. That's cool.
So we're doing a little bit of everything there.
So what's your role there? What's your position?
So my role, we had the opportunity, they dusted us off the shelf. They saying, hey, look, this is an interesting company. This is more aviation specialty. Let's see what he could do, guys. What he could do. So our role there is more of CMT, construction management support. So we're like the arms. We're like your feet. We're like your fingers. So we could look at you from above. We're your eyes in the sky. We're the first ones ever in the history of JFK to fly the drones. or to bring that type of technology there. So we're eyes in the sky.
How are you flying?
We're flying off of a enclosed network. It's a secure network. We have multiple layers, tiers of permissions we have to go through, just to be able to get airside on the ground. Wow. So forget about flying the drones. Just to be able to get airside, there's a lot of documentation, procedures you have to go through.
Any licensure that comes with flying a drone?
We have, the commercial licensure, the Part 107, and then...
Well, I don't know that. I'm not a
right, that's FAA required,
okay. Right.
Anything that you're gonna use for pay or get remunerated on or a contract on, you have to have a commercial license.
Wow.
So we're doing a little more.
So you have a commercial license to fly a drone in JFK?
Well, we have a commercial license to fly a drone, but in order to fly the drone in JFK, we had to go through a security, evaluation and a risk assessment. You could fly, but what type of, risk assessment plan or planning do you have in place for us to allow you to fly?
So it's not like every Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? It's lots
no, absolutely not.
Go ahead and fly.
Maybe Tom, Dick, but not Harry.
That was a good one.
No. It's very intense. It's very serious. We have call signs. We have ham radios. We're communicating with the tower, JFK Tower. We have permissions, from, the tactical unit in Georgia. So there's a lot of behind the scenes.
So what would the drone, if you're allowed to say, what would be the drone? What would they need a drone from you? And what would it be its application for the construction of a terminal in JFK?
So, what would they need the drone for?
So, what's the purpose of this drone? What are they getting out of it?
The purpose of this drone is to kind of map, what's happening, the construction process. Mm-hmm. What we're mapping, or we may have to recreate, like we've done, segments of the air train columns and the air train guide rail system, where there may be an expansion going on in that particular area. So we're able to map, we're able to redigitize actually a digital twin model, so the BIM, the building information modeling designers, could use that information, that in-scale to scale model information, to actually map and work their way around, in their software platforms, and incorporate that into their new structures.
So they basically want like a digital progress report.
Construction project report.
As opposed to a written progress report. They rather have a digital progress report that gives you 3D imaging per se, as opposed to just a picture report, which is very narrow in its spectrum.
And on top of that, it's live. So it's live, it's being live streamed, it's being analyzed, it's being processed.
So that's government. That's what you're doing for government.
That's correct.
Are you applying this in any way in the retail of engineering in New York City?
Absolutely. You're looking at facades, thermal envelopes of facades.
Wow.
Thermal envelopes of roof. Where you leaking? Where you losing energy stuff? Coming back to your carbon footprint.
Not bad.
So there's multiple uses and applications of the system.
So how vital is it for a developer right now, let's say in New York City, when he's building a building, that he should hire a person like you who has the license to fly these drones in New York City and now wants to fly the drone? What is he gaining? What's the end game of the drone when you're flying it and how are you applying it as an engineer for these developers?
I'll give you, we're looking at a large-scale development right now that most likely going to have to go through the CPC process.
What's a CPC?
The CPC is like BSA.
Okay.
What
does it mean? What is CPC?
It's I'll start off with BSA. So it's going to go through the BSA process first. That's the first level. City Planning Commission is the second level.
Okay.
So that agency what you do when you present to them, you kind of have to show them what's happening around your area you plan to
So you're
develop.
saying that you're going to be able to give live,
Actually,
real time, not
real-time.
projected.
No, real
real
time.
time information and time lapsing of what's
Time-lapsing,
actually
correct.
happening in the surrounding area, traffic studies, so on and so forth, with this
Exactly.
drone.
With this drone.
And you'll also be able to obviously create 3D imaging because of your ability with the drone that you have, from
Exactly.
what I understood, right?
Exactly.
Not bad. That's very important. So, like, listen, the message I'm going to give out as a CEO: if you're a developer and you have a company, you want this service, especially if you're going for a city planning exemption of specific zoning in order to create better development for the community,
Or change the zoning.
or change the zoning, right? Or change the zoning. That's a good point. So you were able to use the drone to. So how would you use the drone exactly to calculate traffic, or is that going to be something hard to do?
No, it's not hard. So you live stream it. You look at the traffic between those areas. The difference is you're able to capture a wider panoramic view
Of the traffic.
from above.
So, but what's the window of time that you're able to track with the drone?
So
How long can the drone be up in the air to track that?
So the technology that they have now, the drones could fly up to 55 minutes or 40 minutes before the battery life expires.
So you can do half-hour intervals.
Half-hour intervals. So some of the technologies they have, like docking stations and stuff, the drone would be able to come down within 20 minutes. It would be fully recharged, and it would go back again at
So you
another
can
location.
get a good time. Is that adequate enough for CPC?
It's adequate because remember, you have a different vantage point.
Right.
You have a bird's eye view of what's happening above below, and that is so critical because we kind of saw that in the aviation part when we're in JFK. So a lot of things that the inspectors may not see or not be able to catch from the ground level, you're definitely able to see.
So you're getting more of like a God
Yes.
mode view of everything.
Yes.
Where you can see like really kind of the full circumference of the panoramic. I can understand
I
why
call
panoramic view was
I call
important.
it 4D. The 3D version you could create, but the 4D version is what I try.
So
to
4D is referring that you have the bird's eye view is the fourth dimension.
No, the
So how would you say?
So the 3D is the bird's eye dimension, but the 4th dimension is what you'd like, Benny. That's the cost dimension. So now you could actually see where the project is at, cost-wise.
I mean, so you have more material to determine cost and effectiveness of a building.
That is correct.
Well, then listen, guys, whoever's doing development, this is key for you to know, definitely, no doubt. I mean, to be able to determine cost development based on a drone, and that's huge.
And the banks are asking it for now. I mean, on some of my projects, the banks are saying, hey, could you send in that footage? Because we just received a requisition for payment, and the contractor is telling us that, he's at 80% of his work order, and he's requesting that payment. And when you're seeing it from the sky, it gives a different picture of where that project
But then that will,
is.
but then that can conflict with the developer.
Well,
I mean, it
does-
could go both
it
ways.
could
The
go
bank
both
can say,
ways,
no,
yes.
it's only 30% done. Say, but look at this
Exactly.
drone picture, already up to 40 stories. I mean, what do you want me to do now?
Exactly. So then he may have to revise his requisition to ask for more. Right.
But it doesn't, obviously, the drone can't do interior.
No, the drones could do interior too. The drones could fly interiorly, and they could create base plans.
Really?
So that is where the technology has
So-
been at,
Wow.
but
Wow.
we're not using it.
But, so that is available.
That is available.
So the drone can go through floor to floor
and create floor plans
and create floor plans.
of where you are.
Wow.
And that could be redigitized in
Meaning rendered.
rendered or provided in the format that could go back to the architect or engineer.
Wow.
In the DWG format, in the AutoCAD format, in the JPEG format.
So I want everyone to understand this is crucial in developing a building because now you're going to have real-time connectivity between engineer, architect, developer, and bank.
And what that saves you on many is cost.
Time, efficiency, cost. That's
Efficiency.
huge.
No.
That's huge when it comes to development.
Oh my goodness, especially if we go back to JFK, where you're looking at a project or projects totaling $60 billion plus.
Wow.
just take a fraction of
60 million, you're saying?
billion.
Billion?
Yes, just
What project 60 billion in the city?
no JFK redevelopment.
Oh, besides JFK. Obviously, that's
no,
gonna be
but
60.
in the city, if you're talking about hundreds of millions, just take a fraction of that time, and you convert it to a cost.
So you're talking about savings of 2%, 3%.
2%, 3%.
When you're talking about $100 million project, that's close to a $3-4 million.
But when you're
2 to
looking at
3,
a
$4
$1
million
billion project and you're looking at 3%, 4%,
That's much bigger, no doubt.
well, even if we go as high as 10%.
Right, and that's also that's the what's it called? That's the government's money. That's the people's money.
That's the people's
So
money.
you want to make sure everything is done
Right.
accurately and not burn of money, which is the biggest complaint every real politician is saying. I mean, you're burning people's money, right?
So the technology is there just more than a drone. There's a lot of technology there that could transform or synergize between all forms: the developer, the prime consultant, the boots on the ground, the contractor, the subcontractors. That could really synergize and cut down on that time. Where you're starting to see the conflicts,
Right.
right away, which is life.
So it's real-time
It's
connectivity.
real-time connectivity.
Not bad. That's strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's strong. So what about residential? I mean, is there any application to, like, as a homeowner? What does he gain out of a drone? What is he going to gain? Obviously, I'm sure there's going to be cost effectiveness for him too.
Residential for the developer, he could show the progress,
To the homeowner.
To the homeowner in terms of the construction. The homeowner could get that, at a more timely fashion or earlier than now just taking pictures. He could see the progress of where the actual work is. Or
So
there's conflicts.
Right, so there's interior, exterior.
Exactly.
Not bad. That's very strong, I believe.
Exactly.
That's very important in housing. So there is some room that comes with housing and its application. There's room for that retail.
Exactly.
I mean, are you going to structure a service for commercial and residential separately to each other?
Right. Or for instance, just scanning, the drone could scan the barcodes on say you have a warehouse. And you're looking at, hey, do I need to order new supplies? Where are my supplies at? You could have the drone come through and scan everything where it could tell you, hey, look, you know what? You need to order more of this. You have the drones being used for crops, to fertilize crops, or to see areas where you need to reuse.
So that's already going outside of a structural engineer for a building. That's
Yeah.
already civics engineering or
But
agricultural engineering.
it's all tied in.
Right.
I know, but say on a large scale project, you have all these things going on.
Mm-hmm.
At least, in terms of your inventory. Say you have a major project going on, Benny, and then you're saying, hey, look, my shipment is going to be delayed. How is that incorporating, if they saying, Benny, we're out another week or we're out another 2 weeks. That could throw up your whole project and your cost.
Right, that can delay a lot.
It could delay a lot. And for every day you lose is $1 you lose.
So what is the drone going to do for you?
So what I'm saying is it creates a synergy of what's happening.
Of communication, so therefore
real-time.
you can create a determination by numbers and flow of product when your product will finish.
And that's
So then you can know when to determine. Then you'll be able to determine when to create new orders to catch up to your product.
And that's what 5D
Supplies,
in a nutshell is
Wow.
doing.
Wow.
Environmental, social, and governance,
Mm-hmm.
which is ESG. That's the whole platform.
What is ESG?
ESG is a social, environmental governance saying, hey, look, we are trying to make things better. We're trying to make the environment.
So environmental, social governance. That's what we're doing. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's what you're trying to do with your company.
Exactly.
So listen, it's good to be good to the environment. I believe you have to respect the land you live in. I mean, to me, in my spiritual understanding, it's a living being. The earth is a living being. It's
that's correct.
breathing, eating, drinking. It's sustaining, no doubt. Well, that's very important. I think that's what you're saying is very important. But in regards to,
it's a different approach.
No, it's a good approach, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But I think the developers in general need to have a better understanding how important this is for the next stage of technology, especially since there is a push by some politicians local politicians to create higher zoning availability in the city and in the areas of the tri-state area.
More carbon footprint.
More carbon footprint, but then we're talking about higher vertical as well,
Yes.
not just horizontal.
Yes.
So by doing the vertical, I think the vertical is the more complex, because we're talking about, like you're saying, ESG. What about, animals? What about migration of birds? What about, that also is a huge issue.
So to bring it home with that particular point you're doing, we're involved in the largest building or the tallest building in Jamaica. So one of the things that we are synergizing with is to incorporate at least 10 floors of environmental and social for animals and birds, like a sanctuary, on a section of the building.
Wow.
So migrating birds or migrating animals could stop there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Because remember, you're removing the footprint of all the trees in the ground. So
let's create a substitution for them to migrate.
We're reconstituting that area, removing, and we're replacing it in a section of the building over that area and floors. So if you're the bird traveling, or you're the butterfly traveling or migrating, you're saying, wow, here's an oasis, here's a stop I could make temporarily. Then I'm seeing trees, I'm seeing everything in here that that was taken away underground.
Not bad. Not bad
It's
at all.
a different concept.
Yeah, definitely. It takes it to a different level. Definitely takes it to a different level.
I think they're doing this in Singapore and some of those.
Singapore for sure. I mean,
Right.
Singapore, they're definitely doing more of. What I heard in their airport is like a oasis in there.
Yes.
it's like in a different world. It's like a mass oasis.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad. Listen, that's not bad at all. I mean, the concept makes sense. The concept makes a lot of sense in what you're saying, that we definitely have to create substitutions when we're taking over carbon footprint, especially in big city areas.
Yes.
I mean, the rural areas, I know they already have the lot coverage percentages wise, and there's other things that protect the streetscape or the actual domain of the land there. But in reality, what do you envision the future of engineering to be? And I'm sure drones will be like, you're gonna come in with a team of drones in one day doing stuff. I mean, that's what I can see and imagining in a project.
I think that's the future. I think the future is here now, and we need to ride that wave, or else we'll just get left behind. I think the future is creating, like I said, that synergy, understanding the environment, giving your workers or the people who are going to inhabit these buildings or the environmental around you, giving that quality. It's going to come down to who's going to design or give you that quality of life.
Not bad. Good finish. Jackman, thank you for coming. This is Benny Rahmanov from CEO of iShook. This is not the last time you're going to see Jackman, because I want to actually see these drones on on real time. We're going to try to get another interview, another session where we can see real time these drones and how they can interact. Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, iShook Co. Please also do not forget to click the bottom, in the YouTube page. Don't forget to click all the related links for 5D architecture and engineering and for iShook. So here I am, and here we're out. My name is Benny Rahmanov. Jackman Prescott.
Benny, thank you.
No, always, Jackman. You're always welcome, brother.
Thank you.
Always welcome. And if anyone else wants to join our podcast, you're more than welcome. I'll give you also a link where you can schedule a Calendly, and we can definitely do a podcast. I'm here to learn. As a CEO, it's always important to educate yourself further and further. So have a good day. And